Well, I thought I'd do a quick video on my Dacia Sandero that I've got and how I've got some basic sort of survival stuff in it, if you want to call it that. So I'll give you a quick show around of the car. So obviously there's a dashboard. This is not a proper car review in many ways. Where it says Eco there, that's because the Eco mode's on. Let me flick that off. So it's in full power engine mode, that's to save fuel. So you've got parking sensors you can turn on and off, which is a bit of a novelty for me because I've never needed those before in a car, and I won't need them now, but it's nice to have them, I guess. Trip computer there, obviously it's not displaying anything because I reset it last night and I've not driven the car anywhere yet. I've driven it about 60 miles yesterday, and it was only 59 miles when I bought it, which was pretty damn good considering it was a pre-reg car that was used as a test drive one, and I did 10 miles at 59 when I did my test drive in it. So getting it for like $1,000 and a bit knocked off for a car with 59 miles on it and still all the guarantees is pretty damn good. And it's still an 18 plate as well. So what's here that's quite good is you've got your like navigation kind of sat-nav stuff built into the dashboard. I know this isn't a new thing, but remember all my cars I've had have been quite ancient before this. Aircon and everything down there, which is great because you know it's the summer, and in my old Golf the aircon had long since kicked in, you know, knackered itself. Cruise control and everything, and a speed limiter. Again, novel features, don't know if I'd ever use them, but it's nice to have them there, I guess. Obviously, gear stick and everything down there. There's actually 2 cigarette lighters in this, which is quite good, so it means you can use 2 sorts of charge things at once. So, underneath here, if I can get the camera down here, what you might be able to see is under my seat here, it's the Avon FM12 with a filter in its bag tucked under my seat, so I've got that in case of emergency. Now, in here, that's just a pad of silica gel in. I used to have that for my Golf, because obviously all the rubber seals had long since gone. The car used to fog up horribly. This is a brand new car, so I don't have to worry about that, but, you know, it's there in case I ever need it. Just a cloth for wiping the window here, but what's in here, I've got tucked in, is one of those emergency glass breakers. With, you know, the tungsten carbide tip. Obviously this has got a little flashlight on it as well, but I think the battery's long since gone in there, never mind, because speaking of flashlights, and it's got a seatbelt cutter in it. And you can also use it to lever yourself in and out of a car. I don't know if this car actually has a thing, so that we'll check in a minute. But the point is that, you know, you can use this to break the window if you're ever in an accident. I've also got my tactical pen in my pocket there, which is good for glass breaking in accidents. Obviously, if you're trapped in your car, you can slam that into the window and break the window. And also, if you were ever attacked, and I'll tell you why that bit light didn't work, because the battery pull tab thing is still in there, because I've never used it before. That's why. But if you actually, you know, were ever attacked and you were in your car, you can legally have this there. Not advocating that people use it as a weapon, of course. But if you were attacked, and you obviously had it there for the legitimate reason of, in case you're in a car accident, somebody was, you know, trying to grab you through the window or something, hit them in the head with that, and it's got a glass breaker on there, and it's fairly hefty, so I'm sure you know what that would do. So that's that there. Is there anything particularly interesting? As you can see, it's not too cramped in the back, actually. This is a bit smaller than my Golf, but not by much. And, you know, being a car that cost about $9,000 from new, I'm pretty impressed with that. In the glove box, I've obviously got all my car documents and insurance stuff. You also notice in there I've got a little through night flashlight. That's just obviously simply there to be an actual flashlight in case I need one. I might replace that in there with a bigger flashlight at some point if I buy one specifically to keep in the car. They also did include on the key rings of the car a little LED flashlight as well, which was quite nice of the dealership I bought them from. So that's all there. I'll show you what I've done in the boot in a second. I think you Americans probably call that the trunk, don't you? Because the bonnet at the front is what you'd call the hood, is it? But that's obviously there. Oh, there's another little thing you can store stuff in there. Right, anyway, let me just show you some more of the car. So if that's focused, hopefully you can see, not too cramped in the back at all. So in the boot, which has actually got a decent amount of space in it, I've got an M65 jacket without the liner in it because it's summer at the moment, very hot. A raincoat, a 3M half face mask when I'm volunteering. There's also a first aid kit and antifreeze inside these pouches here. Then if we look right underneath, lift this up, you can maybe see the spare wheel in there. Oh wait, no, I need to get the next bit up. Right, I'm not going to bother getting all this out to show you, but the spare wheel and some other stuff is all in there with car maintenance tools. And of course, like most hatchbacks, there is a button here which is quite stiff because it's new, which you can press, which I can't do holding the camera. There we go. And you can obviously get into the boot from the inside of the car, so you can fold all the seats down and extend your boot capacity. There you go, as you can see, that's all in there. I think the fuel tank on this is 50 litres, but you get quite good fuel economy on this. Even if you're driving fairly quickly, you get over 50 mpg, which is very good compared to what I used to get in the Golf, which wasn't even too bad itself. And it was normally 35 to 40 mpg. So that's the back of the car, as you can see. I'll probably put these headrests down actually while I'm not... you know, don't have passengers in the back, so I get a bit more visibility. Rear windows are mechanical ones, but the front ones are electric. Anyway, I'll just show you the car from the outside and under the bonnet. But yeah, overall I'm quite pleased with my Romanian car. So for all of the people who kept asking me to get a Romanian gas mask, I've now gone much beyond that and I've got an actual Romanian car. So that's it under the bonnet. So obviously you've got all your bits under there as expected. That's where the HEPA air filter is, and I'll try and get that out in a second to show you. Batteries in an easy to access space, thankfully, unlike when I had my Golf and it was all the way down there. So that means replacing the battery yourself is fairly straightforward. Also you've got your engine there, fill up the oil there, check the oil levels there. You know, that's a 0.9 TCE engine, which is quite a high power V3 engine. I think it's V3. It might even be 90 brake horsepower, but it's obviously 0.9 with a turbocharger. But funny enough, it's more fuel efficient and, you know, everything than actually having the slightly higher 1 litre petrol one. There's also 1.5 diesel, but I didn't get that simply because the UK is having a fit about diesel cars at the moment. And there's your HEPA air filter, as you can see, exactly the same as the P3 gas mask filter in there. And that just sits in there, so that's where obviously the blower sucks in there. The aircon, and then obviously you've got that there ready to go. Easy to swap the filters out yourself on this one. Another thing I'll quickly show you in case you didn't know this of cars is on most cars you can set the air to either recirculate, which is this one with like the recycling symbol, or to come in and then leave the car. Now if you're trying to cool the car down faster in the summer, generally recycling the air does that faster because you're just having to, you know, cool the air more and more each time. However, if you're ever somewhere and say there's radioactive particles or something like that, recycling the air is what you really want to do because it's stopping new air coming into the car as far as I'm aware. So although if you have that on too long you'll get a dry throat and everything else, that is actually a really good function if you're ever in a car and something happens, whether there's like a fire or something, or contamination, radiation, whatever. Put the car on a recycle air mode, because as long as your windows are done up and that's on, there's far less chance you're going to get anything coming into the car. So that's just something, you know, to bear in mind, just to let people know. But yeah, overall, so far I'm very pleased with this Dacia Sandero. Like I said, I used to have a Golf GTi, so a much more fun and kind of impressive car, but since getting this, like I said, I've only done 60 or so miles in it. It was about 59 miles when I got it. 10 of those are the ones I did on the test drive, and then I did about 60 miles in it yesterday. You know, 10 to 20 miles driving it home, and then I took it out with a friend last night for a bit of a spin and, you know, working out gear ratios and stuff like that. Because it's a modern car, it has this thing where it tells you when you want to shift up and shift down, which is quite funny. It's not too bad having that on there. It's kind of like an automatic, obviously. I drive a proper gear stick car because I'm in the UK. I think what you Yanks call driving a stick. But you know, I like having a manual gear stick because you can actually look at the road ahead and say, oh, I'm coming up to a hill, so I want to be in a lower gear, whereas an automatic has to figure it out that self, and I know they've got a lot better at that, but still. And it keeps you a bit more alert, stops you drifting off, you know, when you're driving, if you're having to use one of those. So there we go, Dacia Sandero. I'm actually overall pretty impressed with it, to be honest. So you know, this isn't one of my usual videos, but as I said, I've got a couple of survival things in there. Oh, down there it's also got this thing. It hasn't bothered me as much as I thought it would, but there's a thing there where you can flick that on and off when you've actually got the ignition going. And that's so it stops the engine when you're sat in traffic, and I think that's like an emissions thing. But then as soon as you go to, you know, drive it, the engine cuts back in ready to go. So that's quite a useful feature. as I said, I don't know how much I'll come to like that, but it doesn't seem too bad so far. I drove around, like I said, 60 miles with it on yesterday, and it didn't bother me too much, but, you know, maybe that's something I would or wouldn't want on. Headlights are on the left side of there. So yeah, all pretty straightforward. Like I said, a bit more scientific than my Golf, because you've got all these like fancy instrument panels on there. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with it.